Hello and welcome to Sync and Flow, the podcast with me, your host, Josie Thorne. I am a Red Tent Women's Circle facilitator, a womb healer, and feminine empowerment coach. I have been guiding women to embody their true essence through womb activations and feminine embodiment practices. I started Sync and Flow to help educate and connect women back to the wisdom of their sacred womb space and cyclical nature. I want to help all women reawaken to the true power of the feminine that lives deep within them, so that they may cultivate a relationship to self that is rooted in pure trust, divine love, and a deeply intuitive connection to the body. Thank you for being here and taking the time to listen to this podcast episode. I hope you enjoy. Hello. Welcome back to another episode of Sync and Flow, the podcast. Today, I want to talk about something that is very, very personal, as this is part of the journey that I've come through to be who I am today. And today I want to talk about the epidemic of disembodiment and how we see that showing up in our current world reality, especially what that means living in a feminine body with a feminine nervous system, with a womb space, and a deeply sensitive heart. Because I know all the women that follow me are sensitive souls, and they are connecting with me because they want to learn how to turn their sensitivity into a superpower, just like I have done through my healing journey over the last 4 or 5 years. So the epidemic of disembodiment is something that has been conditioned into us through the patriarchal society that we have grown up in. Because through our whole lives, we have been forced into the mental headspace. We have been forced to live in only the top half of our body. We have been forced to overanalyze, overthink, overprocess, mentally cognitize everything that we have gone through. And it has forced us to prove our self-worth through the mental space. And so we are a culture that is stuck up here. We are stuck in the top half of our body. And that has led to things like depression, anxiety, PTSD, all these mental health crises, all these mental health disorders that we see happening in our current society. This is a symptom of us being stuck in the mental zone. Okay, and as women, we've been forced to almost compete with men for the power of our intellects, okay? Because men are they more naturally have a way of rationalizing. They process their life through the rational plane, whereas we as women, we process life through the body, through the physical plane, through the emotional plane. And so as a person in a female body, being forced into a way of being that is not naturally aligned with how our energy likes to flow can cause a lot of friction in our system. It can cause a lot of dysregulation in our nervous system. And that is why so many women are experiencing symptoms when it comes to things like sex, being stuck in your head, not being able to orgasm, having painful periods, being stuck in the why am I having a period? I hate my period. Why is this happening to me? It's a curse. All of these stories, we're so stuck in the narrative, okay? When we experience emotions, we're so stuck in that emotional narrative of why am I crying? Why do I feel this way? What the fuck? How do I get out of it? And it's just like a massive resistance to the current experience, right? And as someone in a feminine body, it is our priority to learn how to decondition our minds and disconnect from this mental plane of always needing to prove, always needing to rationalize, always needing to overthink and justify ourselves. And take a deep breath. Maybe you want to just place your hand on your heart with me right now. Take a deep breath in through the nose and out through the mouth. With that audible exhale, let's do it one more time. Just sinking deeper and deeper back into the body, right? Because sometimes we actually forget to breathe. We're so busy on this rat race, I need what to do next, how do I do it, like this overthinking, over stimulated space, right? And we forget the tools of the body, these beautiful, powerful tools that we have to reconnect back to the body. We are seeing an epidemic of disembodiment in our current society. It is a true epidemic. And every time I connect with women in a conversation, I can tell the depth of her embodiment by the way that she speaks to me, by the level of her body language, right? Because did you know that 80 to 90% of communication is based on body language? 80 to 90% of communication is body language. And so if you are communicating just through this mental plane, top half of the body situation, you're not going to be grounded into the subtle energetics of body language and the way you are communicating and expressing yourself and being received by the other person in connection, because you have lost touch with the depth of your own embodiment. So what does it mean to be embodied? What does disembodiment even mean? So embodiment is the level of presence that you have within your physical being, right? It is the level of presence that you have in connection to your nervous system. It is the level of presence that you have in connection to your emotions. It is the level of presence that you have of feeling in your center, of feeling grounded, of feeling rooted, right? This is why I created my course, Root and Reboot, because so many of us are living disconnected from our body. Embodiment is a practice. Embodiment is not something you do once and then suddenly you're switched on and then suddenly, you're always in your body. No. Embodiment is a practice. It is something we have to continuously keep up, continuously invest time in, and continually practice, right? Because we have been conditioned that every time we experience an uncomfortable emotion or an uncomfortable sensation, such as pain or trigger or anything that's dysregulating, we have been trained to disassociate, to numb out, to disconnect from the body. Because the experience of life, the present experience of life, happens through the body, not through the mind, right? That's why you can watch a movie, but if you're sitting on your phone the whole time, you're not actually going to be engaging and taking in what's happening in the movie, right? If someone is reading your story and you're, distracted looking out the window, you're not going to be listening with your full attention, right? You're not going to be engaged. And so embodiment is the process of being engaged on a full sensory level through all of your five senses. Through your eyesight, through your hearing, through your nose, through your smelling, through your taste, through your touch, right? It is being connected to the sensory experience of what it means to have a body, what it means to be human. And something that I've noticed within myself, especially since moving countries, is that life becomes so much easier when we live in our body and we are not just stuck in this mental plane, when we can actually ground into the very depths of our being and activate those lower energy centers, the lower chakras, the root, the sacral, the solar plexus, because that's where our power comes from. Our ability to be present and to be engaged with life is directly correspondent to our own connection to our own power and to our own connection to the lower chakras, to the lower senses, to the lower half of our body. Our ability to be embodied is also dictated by how much shadow work, trauma healing, and personal unraveling we have gone through, we have taken ourselves through, we have initiated ourselves through. You see, I just noticed my posture, and now I'm coming deeper into my center because I'm sitting up straight and my channel is more clear. I'm able to receive more inspiration to channel through to you guys. Our ability to be grounded in our power is directly correspondent to our ability to be embodied. Being embodied is the greatest gift you can give yourself. Our ability to be embodied is directly correspondent to how much shadow work, how much trauma healing, and how much ability we have to look at ourselves in the mirror and take a deep look, right? To look deeply into all that we are on a mind, body, and soul level, and really assess our life and say, right, where am I out of alignment? Where am I out of integrity with my values, with what I want to achieve, with how I want to come across to others? My own experience of myself while traveling, I've been in 4 different cities in the last 3 weeks, and my ability to be so fucking grounded has come from my connection to my own embodiment. I've not felt anxious once. I've not felt overwhelmed. Okay, maybe once or twice, but that's because I was on my period. So I've literally felt so fucking invincible and so fucking grounded and so deeply in my truth because of how deeply connected to my own body I have been through my own practice, my own spiritual practice, my yoga practice, my breath work, my engagement with my womb, my sex, my power, right? All of these things come into alignment when you are grounded in your body. That's why practices like yoga are so fucking essential, because these practices help to release stuck energy, stuck trauma, stagnation in the body that is preventing you from being in your body. Trauma lives in the body, right? And so if you have stagnant trauma that is living in your body, in your system, in your cells, in your womb, all women hold trauma in their womb. I'm going to generalize here because growing up in a patriarchal society means that all women are disembodied from their womb space unless they have taken the necessary healing steps and gone on their own personal womb healing journey. And a lot of men are also disembodied because men have been forced to suppress their emotions, and the emotions are the experience of the body. Emotions are just energy in motion, but emotions are not a mental game. Emotions are a physical, sensational game, right? Emotions are experienced in the body. And so if you are holding stuck emotions, suppressed trauma, suppressed stagnant energy in your body, you will not be grounded in your body. You will not be grounded in your truth. You will struggle to feel. You will struggle to process. You will struggle to be grounded. Because if you think about it, like, our bodies want to keep us safe, right? That is the number one priority of the body, is survival, of the nervous system is survival, right? And so if you are holding all of this trauma in your body, then your nervous system, your psyche says, okay, it's not safe for me to be in the body because there is so much trauma there. I cannot feel safe if I'm in my body. So what does it do? Your psyche sends all your energy into your mental plane, into the headspace, and it disconnects you from the body because of how much trauma is still there. And another thing when it comes to trauma healing is that you don't need to know what your trauma is in order to heal. I have done so much inner child healing without having a perfectly clear memory of my childhood. Okay, all you need to do is really just observe your own reactions, observe your own triggers, and also observe your parents. When you go to your family, observe your parents from that state of loving, witnessing, compassion, right? And observe what their patterns are, and see how their patterns have transferred to you. See how their triggers have transferred to you. Anytime you hang out with your family and you get triggered, observe where is that trigger coming from? What is this trigger relating to? Am I feeling unsafe? Am I feeling rejected? Is it abandonment wounds? Is it not feeling understood? You know, what is below the surface of the trigger? And the deeper that you go into that trigger, the deeper you're going to be able to clear the trauma that is underlying that trigger. And the only way out of the trigger, out of the trauma, out of the pain is through the trigger, through the trauma, through the pain. We cannot outthink our trauma. We cannot outthink our anxiety. We cannot outthink our emotions. We have to allow ourselves to experience them on the physical level. Okay? And that is going into it. And like I said, if you have a tendency to shoot into the mental every time you get triggered or go through an intense emotional experience, this is your reminder to stop. Place your hand on your heart and just fucking breathe. The more you can be with yourself in moments of dysregulation, unsafety, chaos, intensity, the more that you can allow yourself to be grounded in whatever is going on internally, the stronger your sense of embodiment will become. Because if you can remain in your center when things get crazy, that's when you start to become deeply embodied, deeply grounded, deeply centered. And I'm not saying this is easy. This is fucking hard work. It sounds really simple, but this is fucking hard work. It's not something I've perfected yet. I've been on this healing journey for 5, maybe even 7 years now. And I'm still working with triggers. I'm still working with my reactive nature. But through practices like yoga, breath work, my womb healing, any somatic based therapy, that teaches you the tools to be able to self-regulate. I was doing a bit of Kundalini yoga today with a teacher, and she said to the class, the way that we train our nervous system is by going into the intensity, holding the intensity, feeling it, build up, build up, build up, build up, and then relax and come back to safety, come back to nervous system regulation, come back to self-love, self-care, self-nourishment. And so we need to train our nervous systems and be able to go into intensity and then out of intensity. Because we all have a different edge, right? An edge is the limit at which your nervous system can go to before it starts freaking out, before it starts going into fight or flight. And your edge will be dependent on how much self-healing work that you've done. So everyone has a different edge, and you can meet your edge in different ways. A trigger is you meeting your edge. Any experience that brings intensity into the body, even a workout, that can help you to regulate, because once you go into the intensity, you feel it, meet your edge, and then back out a bit, go back into safety, going back into holding yourself, right? And breathing and staying connected to the sensations of your body. The minute you feel yourself start to shake, tremble, and start to disassociate, like go out of your body and into the mind, that's when you need to stop, because that's when you've met your edge. Because nothing positive can happen if you've dissociated. So you need to pause, take a break, and then return back into the body. And that can be through simple processes like tapping is an amazing way to come back into the body. Deep exhales. Deep exhales. Justin, what is SR? What is that, love? Can you just tell us so I can talk about that? So deep exhales, tapping, anything that can like bring you back into the body. Yes, semen retention. Yes. That is huge. That is a huge one for men. Not many men actually know about semen retention. And it's something we need to educate the masses on. Because every time a man ejaculates, he actually gets rid of his energy. And that can deplete him and deplete his energy resources, right? But through tantric practices such as semen retention, we can cultivate that inner resilience, that strength, because we're nourished, right? And this is another point. Like, we cannot have a regulated nervous system if, on the fundamental level of the body, we are undernourished. And that's why drinking the weeds, shout out wild nettle. If you're in South Africa, look up wildnettle.love and drink the motherfucking herbs and weeds. These will help replenish your energy, your micronutrients, because if your body is lacking micronutrients, macronutrients, minerals, vitamins, whatever, you're not going to be your most healthy self. You're not going to be your most grounded self. And eating food is a very grounding experience, but we're not going to get everything we need from our food, unfortunately, because of monoculture. And unless you eat organic all the time, you're not fully getting all the nutrients we need. And that's why we need to supplement. But not supplement with supplements. We need to supplement with bioavailable supplements, such as weeds, such as herbs, such as working with plant medicines. Okay, your ability to be able to be grounded in your body is on a fundamental level determined by your nourishment. And then on a fundamental level is determined by your own connection to yourself and your connection to your breath. Like, on a fundamental level, are you breathing properly? Most people don't actually breathe properly. They breathe from their chest, not from their abdomen. You need to be breathing from your deep abdomen in order to be taking nourishing inhales and exhales. And so all of these practices that I've mentioned are ways in which we can become more deeply embodied. You cannot do trauma healing with a dysregulated nervous system. you will not have the strength. You will not have the mental and physical and emotional strength to face your trauma if your nervous system is dysregulated, if your body is undernourished, and if you are not present with the sensations going on. And that's why the most simple meditation is also the most powerful meditation. And that is Vipassana, which is the practice of observing sensation, observing breath. So in Vipassana, the 10-day meditation course, the first 3 days you spend on just observing the breath in this triangle. You observe the breath in and out the nostrils and on the top lip, and you refine that area of concentration, because the smaller the area, the more concentrated your mind is. And then through practice, your mind starts to sharpen. And once you can start to observe the sensation of your breath in meditation and yoga, that opens up your ability to observe sensations in the body on a deeper level. Maybe some sensations in your lower back, your legs, your hands, your arms, your organs, your chest, your heart, right? Because every time we become dysregulated, the body will tell us through sensations. The body will indicate to us that something is not right. And unfortunately, most of us only realize that we're dysregulated when we start getting triggered and emotional and when we're in full-blown fight or flight, right? But the symptoms, the signals, the messengers from the body actually come a lot sooner than we realize. We're just not trained to notice them. And that's why embodiment work is so powerful, because it allows you to get very, very intimate with the sensations of your body. The good ones and the bad ones. Actually, there's no bad sensations. There's only comfortable and uncomfortable. And those will exist on a spectrum, and everyone's spectrum will be different depending on your own healing journey and your personal level of embodiment. But when we experience a trigger or traumatic experience, like, the sensations that come up are usually to do with a shutdown. Your body will shut down to protect you, and your energy will get sent into the mental space to protect you. And those sensations can be tingling, they can be contraction. You can almost feel like you're being choked from the inside out. Your mouth can become dry. Your chest can become quite heavy, your shoulders can get sore, you feel like you've got like the weight of the world on your shoulders. All of these physical symptoms, physical tension, is a symptom of some sort of unprocessed, unresolved trauma, emotional suppression, something that is living in your body that wants to be free, because your body wants to be its healthiest it can be. Your body wants to be the most vital it can be. Your body wants to thrive, right? And so that's why it will send you these messengers of tension, of pain, of shutdown, because your body wants you to address them on a mind, body, soul level with love and compassion for yourself, so that you can work through them, so that you can feel, so that you can cry and process that experience however you need to process that. It can also be like banging on a wall, or like banging on a pillow, screaming into a pillow, like whatever's coming up for you. You need to find ways, healthy ways, of processing negative emotions. That is raising your consciousness. That is increasing your self-awareness. Finding healthy ways to express negative emotions without projecting them onto others. And through that, through the release process, you will start to come back into regulation. Even crying is such a beautiful way to process emotion. Because did you know, and I only found this out recently and I find it so interesting, tears release cortisol. Crying helps you to release cortisol. Cortisol is the stress hormone. And you don't want cortisol in your body. We all release natural, tiny amounts of cortisol throughout the day through the sunlight. The sunlight triggers our pineal gland to release cortisol. Or maybe it's your pituitary gland, I'm not sure. But you don't want excess levels of cortisol, especially if you're a woman. Cortisol is made from progesterone, and if you are having too high levels of cortisol in your body, you're going to have too low levels of progesterone, and that is going to unbalance your hormones and dysregulate your cycle. You're going to have issues with your menstrual cycle and have bad PMS and have bad menstrual cramps. Yes, also for sleep. Thank you, Justin. Like you're not going to be able to sleep deeply if you have micro levels of cortisol being released all the time, because you can be subconsciously stressed. I noticed this in someone that I was very close to, and on the surface they were like chilled, like very chilled, happy, fine, everything was chilled. But on a subconscious level, there was disembodiment from their sexual energy. And that goes to show that on a subconscious level, you can be stressed without even knowing it, right? And that's why practices like meditation and yoga and, all these practices that get straight to the subconscious are so important, because the only way to train your subconscious, because your subconscious goes through these patterns, your subconscious is going to take the road or the pathway that is the most ingrained pathway. And so if you have been in a state of subconscious stress, you're going to stay in a state of subconscious stress. And the only way to release that is to practice again and again and again, because the way that you shift your subconscious is through repetition. The only way to change and shift and shape and mold the subconscious is through repeating things, repetition, repetition, repetition. And so if you practice, the more you practice feeling safe in your body, the more natural it is for your body to stay in that space of safety, in that space of the sympathetic nervous system. Sorry, we want to be in the parasympathetic nervous system. That is your rest and relaxation. The sympathetic nervous system is the fight or flight, right? So we want to be in our parasympathetic nervous system as much as fucking possible throughout our day. But unfortunately, we live in a world that is very jarring. It's very overstimulating. Even yesterday, I was talking to two women that say they hate taking public transport because of how, like, confronting it is. So many different energies, so many different sounds, so many different people, right? Even walking down the street, there's cars, there's noise pollution, there's smells, like good, there's so much. It's a sensory overload. And even something like a blaring siren, like loud in your ear, is enough to make your body feel unsafe and go into that sympathetic fight or flight state. And that's why we have to actively practice being in our parasympathetic, so that we can be embodied. That rest and relaxation effect is the embodied effect. We want to be in that state as much as possible, because that means that we're grounded, we're centered, and we have capacity. Our nervous systems work on a spectrum of capacity. Men's nervous systems have a greater capacity for stress than women's. And this is purely an evolutionary factor due to thousands of years ago. Men were the hunters and women were the gatherers. Women were the nurturers and they stayed at home and looked after children, and the men had to go out into the bush and hunt and sometimes fight for their lives, right? And so they needed a greater capacity for stress. to be able to handle that. Whereas women, we have a lower capacity for stress, but we also have a greater capacity for sensitivity. We are more sensitive. We can feel more subtle energies, more subtle emotions, more subtle shifts in energy in the room, in our environment. And so the only way to become embodied is through regulating your nervous system. And this is not just something you do in the morning, in your morning practice, in your yoga practice. This is something you need to do throughout the day. Obviously, you're going to want to give more of yourself to your practice in the morning. But throughout your day, take breaks. Take embodiment breaks, okay? And if anyone asks what you're doing, just say, Josie told me to do this. Take an embodiment break. And that means to take yourself away from stimulus, away from people, away from crowds, away from your desk, away from screens, away from your computer. Close your eyes. And it's honestly just as simple as one hand on the heart, one hand on the stomach. Deep breath through the nose and out breath through the mouth. Like I said in the beginning, making that audible exhale stimulates the vagus nerve. And when your vagus nerve is stimulated, the parasympathetic nervous system is activated, the rest and relaxation. And so do this throughout your day. Take 5-minute breaks, 2-minute breaks, hand on heart, hand on belly, and just it's really as simple as that. Maybe do some EFT tapping. There are so many videos on YouTube for EFT. Maybe you can just tap. Maybe you want to give yourself a little jaw massage. Any way that you can continuously throughout your day connect to the physicality of your being through massage, touch, breath, whatever it is, however that looks for you. I'm only just scratching the surface of what is possible. And you need to figure that out for yourself, because what works for me isn't going to work for everyone. My favorite is hand on heart, hand on womb, and breathing, because it's so simple yet so effective. The breath is a powerful, powerful tool, and it's something that we have access to all the time. Another powerful tool for embodiments and grounding back into your center is essential oils. I always carry essential oils on me. And whether you just spray it, I made a little spray with essential oil and water. I love doing this. I just close my eyes and I just so good, so good. It's also my aura cleanser, which I suggest to any highly sensitive person to have an aura cleanser, because you can't walk around with burning incense all the time. And a lot of people don't understand energetic hygiene. And so unfortunately, a lot of people are projecting energy that they don't even realize. Another way with essential oils is you can just put a drop on your hand and just rub together. And deep breath. That's amazing. Like just holding and breathing deeply until you feel yourself coming back into presence. Because that's all embodiment is. It's presence, deep presence on a somatic level, right? The ability to, at any given point, feel what's going on. Like close your eyes, like feel. How does my throat feel? How does the tip of my head feel? How does my heart feel? How does my chest feel? How does my stomach feel right now? What's happening in my feet? What's happening in my knees? What's happening in my pelvis? What's happening in my genitals? Right? It's like I can just close my eyes right now and like tune in immediately, because embodiment is such a big part of my life, because I practice embodiment on a daily basis. But some people, you ask them to close your eyes and feel what's happening inside their body, and they feel numbness. And that's not to shame. Numbness is a sensation. But there's so much more to life than being numb, And numbness is a protective mechanism. Numbness is a trauma response, because below the numbness is the intensity of a suppressed emotion, a suppressed experience, suppressed trauma. Below the numbness is something that your subconscious doesn't want you to feel, because you haven't given your subconscious permission to feel it. You haven't made your subconscious, your nervous system, feel safe enough to go there. And that's why working with healers, working with coaches, working with practitioners, somatic practitioners, is so fucking important, because they can help you to go deeper than you can take yourself. Self-healing is 100% possible. 100%. I've been doing it for many, many, many years, because not everyone has the financial means to invest in therapy and coaches. But you also need to know the tools, and you need to educate yourself through the tools. And you need to utilize those tools in the appropriate moments. And when you feel yourself disassociating, numbing out, tremoring, like starting to get the shakes, like you need to do something with it. Shaking as well is an amazing practice to get back in your body and release stagnant emotion. Put on a fucking crazy track and just like go wild and get into your body. Do this throughout your day. Create that sense of safety in your body every single day. And the levels of pleasure that you will be able to receive from becoming deeper and deeply and deeper and deeper and deeper, more embodied, is undescribable. Your sex life will go from 0 to 100. You know, that your ability to feel joy will go from 0 to 100. Your ability to feel pain will also go from 0 to 100. But you will have the tools to be able to get through it faster. Because it's actually a waste of, like, I think it's a waste of time, almost like suppressing emotions. It's like, why not just have the tools, educate yourself, teach yourself the tools to be able to handle and deal with that emotion in the present moment, rather than, oh, I'm just going to deal with it later. No, that not for now. Like, I don't have time. Like, just process it later. And you don't, though. You don't, like, it's so hard to go back to that space, especially if it's an uncomfortable emotion. You naturally avoid discomfort. It's just the human experience. We don't want to feel discomfort, so we've trained ourselves not to. And so when an uncomfortable emotion comes up, we disconnect from it. We disassociate from it. We go, I don't want to feel that. Let me push it aside. But there's no such thing as away. There's no such thing as aside, right? It's still there. It's still in your system. It's still in your body. You just have chosen to numb out of it, right? You've just chosen to disconnect from it, but it's still there. It's still there. And your body deeply, deeply wants you to feel. Your body deeply, deeply wants you to acknowledge your own emotional experience. Your body deeply wants you to hold yourself and love yourself so tenderly, so gently, so softly through the emotional experience. But you can only do that if your nervous system is regulated and if you have the tools to stay present, stay grounded, stay calm. Because once you go into fight or flight, it takes 15 minutes at least, that's a minimum, to come back out of dysregulation. And once you're in dysregulation, most of us just continue to spin until we're like actually going insane. I know I've been there many times before. And only very recently have I been able to go through an emotional experience and be with it without reacting to it, right? Because sometimes we even like react to our own reactions. We'll have an experience, a trigger, we'll react, and then we react on top of the reaction because the reaction itself is so intense. And so practicing being present, being grounded, being with your body is how we transform our consciousness, is how we heal, is how we up level, is how we deepen our connection and our intimacy with ourselves. Because intimacy is a co-creative exchange, right? But you can only be as intimate with another as you can be intimate with yourself, right? And if you are someone that is craving depth in connection, that is craving friendships and relationships, whether romantic or platonic, that are deep and nourishing and soulful and beyond the surface level of mainstream reality, then you need to be able to go deep with yourself. You can only meet others as deeply as you've met yourself. They can only meet you as deeply as they've met themselves, right? And so embodiment is how we get there. Embodiment is fucking key. We even, that's why talk therapy is not enough. And I spoke about this in episode 2 of the podcast, Layers of Healing. Talk therapy is not enough because it just confines our understanding of our trauma, our experiences to the mental. Whereas we need to bring that understanding down into the body and feel all of that on a sensate level. We need to process it, sit with it, And only you will know how much processing you need to do, how much crying you need to do, how much experiencing, somatic processing, somatic experiencing, how much pillow screaming you need to do. And sometimes an emotion will ask to be moved straight away, and sometimes an emotion will ask to be sat with. Because sometimes the processing will take days, weeks, months. And you need to be able to self-regulate so that you can handle that processing. If you think about breakups are not just like a one time I write in my journal and then and I cry a little bit and I listen to some sad songs and then I'm done. No, that doesn't happen. They take a long time and they're usually quite messy and they usually require a lot of energy. But if you can stay regulated, if you can regulate yourself, regulate your nervous system, and stay in your parasympathetic the entirety of that breakup process, then you can stay in your center and you can actually get through it a lot faster because you're deeply connected to your own experience, right? And when you're deeply connected to your own experience, things can actually process like this. It happens so much faster when you're intimate with your own emotions, when you're intimate with your own sensual experience. Emotions can come and then they can move, like things like breakups can happen and they can come and then they can move. And you can find yourself handling intense situations that maybe in the past you would have spun out and freaked out and been dysregulated for a week. But now, through your deepening of your own embodiment, you're able to actually process something that previously would have taken you a week. You're able to now process that in a day. Boom, gone. It's out of my field. I don't need to worry about it anymore because I'm not physically, sensationally, emotionally holding on to it anymore. But you need to give your body the ability to feel safe because the body will hold on. It wants you to recognize, it wants you to acknowledge, it wants you to be real with what's happening. And so that's why actually suppressing emotions, suppressing experiences is only going to make the uncomfortable experience last so much longer. Really, yoga is such an amazing place to start. Yoga, breathwork, meditation are like the best places to start. It's so key. It really is so key. Like, we weren't taught nervous system regulation as children. Most of us were raised by parents who weren't even regulated themselves, and so it's like a dysregulated person is going to dysregulate someone else, which is going to dysregulate someone else. But if you can be that person, if you are the only person in the room with a regulated nervous system, you are doing the entire room a favor, because their dysregulation can calm the fuck down, and they can then regulate to you. Co-regulation, it's a real thing. Our nervous systems regulate based on our environment around us, based on the nervous systems of the people around us. And so if you can be that one that is holding your center, that is staying calm, that is remaining regulated, yes, you may be having an emotional experience, but can you be regulated in your emotional experience? You're going to be doing everyone that you're interacting with a massive favor. And watch how your relationships transform, especially relationships that may be conflicting, that may be triggering. Next time someone around you gets dysregulated, be that light of regulation for them. And try and see, breathe into your center, breathe deeply into your belly, do some tapping, do some audible exhales, sink deeper into your body, and hold that pillar of regulation for them. That's what it means to hold space. While someone else is having an emotional experience, you're allowing them that emotional experience by being in your center, by being regulated. And they know that it is safe for them to have that emotional experience because you're a safe person and you're holding the container of the interaction. And we can only go to the depths of our emotions if we feel safe to experience them, if we feel safe to express them, if we feel safe to allow them to release. And you can give yourself that safety. You can give yourself that safety. You don't need to outsource that safety. But holding that safety for someone else, holding space for someone else, is a deeply connective experience and will deepen your intimacy with someone, because they will feel so deeply seen by you in that moment, because you're not reacting, you're just holding that pillar of strength and love and compassion, because you hold that for yourself. It all starts with the self. It all starts with the self. And if you feel dysregulated, just come back. It is a process. You're not going to get this first time. You're not going to get it the second time. You're not going to get it the third time. Probably not even on the 10th time. But the more you practice coming back into regulation, coming back into safety, coming back into self-holding, the more you practice that, the easier it becomes. Really. And it's such a gift to be able to give that to yourself. To be going through the waves of change, to be going through the storm, and instead of being in that hurricane whirlwind, you are the eye of the storm. You are in your center. You are grounded in your truth, because you know that you've got yourself no matter what. It doesn't matter what happens to you. It doesn't matter who bails on you. It doesn't matter whatever the fuck happens. Like, you've got yourself no matter what. You've got yourself no matter what. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen to this episode and engage with all the wisdom that was shared. If you enjoyed this podcast, please remember to leave a review on your podcast platform of choice, as this really helps this wisdom reach new people. If you have any questions or queries, please feel free to reach out to me via Instagram DM or send me an email. You can follow me on my personal account on Instagram at Josie, Josie _Thorne, THORNE, or you can follow Sync and Flow, my business accounts, at Sync, that's spelled SYNC _in_flow. Please feel free to reach out with any questions or queries you may have. Otherwise, get in contact to book a free discovery call to start your self-healing spiritual journey today. I look forward to hearing from you, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye for now, loves.